My sister came to my baby shower drunk and confessed to sleeping with my husband. Here's what happened. So yeah, not exactly how I imagined my baby shower going. I always thought it'd be pastel balloons, some cute little cupcakes, maybe a diaper raffle, a few inappropriate jokes from my best friend Katie, and then a nap after everyone leaves. Not this. Not what actually happened. Let's rewind a little. I'm 28, married to Kyle, who's 30. We've been together for 6 years, married for almost 4. We met in college. He was in computer science, I was in early childhood education, and we bonded over being awkward at parties and our mutual love of nachos and trash TV. He's not super charming or flashy, but he's steady, thoughtful. He picks up my favorite ice cream without me asking. He makes the bed every morning. He scratches my back when I pretend not to ask for it. At least, he did. And then there's my sister, Emily. Emily's the older one by 3 years, but somehow she's always been the chaotic little sister energy in the family. Think, she once dyed her hair neon pink the night before our cousin's wedding and blamed it on Mercury retrograde. She's funny, dramatic, always has a story, always between jobs, but somehow always has lash extensions and fresh nails. My mom says she just hasn't found her path yet, which is code for Emily does whatever she wants and we let her. Emily and I were close when we were kids. Less so now. It's not that we don't love each other, but it's that kind of sibling dynamic where every interaction feels slightly competitive. If I got a new job, she'd joke about nepotism. If she started dating someone, she'd compare them to Kyle. And yeah, I'd roll my eyes. But we'd still text memes, send each other voice notes, and share skincare tips. You know, surface level stuff. Just enough to pretend things are normal. Anyway, fast forward to this year. Kyle and I found out I was pregnant in January. It wasn't planned, but it also wasn't a disaster. We talked about kids just later. But I was like, okay, guess later is now. Kyle was super supportive from the start. He even bought this dumb little baby-sized hoodie that said, loading. And it made me cry laugh. We told our families in February, and everyone did the whole scream and hug thing. Emily sent me a voice note that said, OMG, you're gonna be a MILF, which was honestly very her. The baby shower was in May, just a chill little backyard thing at my friend Katie's house. Katie's the ride or die bestie type. She got us all matching sage green dresses, and the theme was Little Sprout. We had a little Sprout cake, Sprout cookies, even freaking Sprout centerpieces. Pinterest got its claws in us, okay? It was mostly women, family, friends, coworkers. My mom, Kyle's mom, my aunt, 2 of my old roommates, and like 20 others. Emily showed up 40 minutes late in a glittery champagne-colored bodycon dress that screamed, I'm not like other sisters, I'm a cool sister. Her makeup was flawless, but she looked off. Like her eyes were a little too shiny, her smile a little too wide. She hugged me way too hard and said, my beautiful little Mama, in that dragged-out tone that immediately gave me middle school flashback. Katie whispered to me, she's definitely had at least 2 mimosas, and I shrugged it off because, Emily, honestly, I expected a little drama. I expected a slightly embarrassing toast or her hitting on someone's dad. What I did not expect was what actually happened. It started small. She knocked over a chair trying to sit down, laughed it off, and made some weird comment like, oops, just testing the baby's reflexes. Then she pulled Kyle aside and whispered something in his ear, and he stiffened a little. I clocked it. Thought maybe she was being flirty in that weird way she sometimes was. But Kyle didn't laugh. He just nodded and walked away. Later, while we were opening gifts, she shouted out, oh my god, remember when Kyle and I went to that concert together? That was the craziest night. And Kyle turned pale. Like actually pale. I gave him a look like, but he shook his head slightly, like, ignore it. So I did. Because pregnancy hormones plus stress equals not wanting to deal with drama at my own baby shower. But then came the toast. Emily stood up, swaying a little, holding a half-full glass of cheap rose, and said, okay, I have to say something. To my little sister, who's gonna be the best mom. And to Kyle, who's just been so generous with his time. The entire yard got quiet. Like awkward middle school dance quiet. She kept going. I mean, this baby is gonna be so lucky. Because its parents are just so in love. So committed. So honest. Right, Kyle? She laughed. And it wasn't a happy laugh. Katie reached out to touch her arm like, hey, maybe wrap it up. But Emily pulled away. No, I'm serious. You guys deserve the truth. Everyone deserves the truth. And I think if we're gonna raise a baby in this family, we should start with honesty. I felt a weird wave of nausea. Not baby nausea, emotional nausea. Something was coming. Everyone could feel it. Emily looked right at me. Her eyes were glossy. I slept with your husband, she said. Just like that. Plain as day. It happened once. Okay, twice. But the second time doesn't really count because it was super quick. I think time froze. No one moved. No one breathed. My mom dropped a plastic cup. Someone gasped. Kyle stood up and said, Emily, stop. But it was too late. She shrugged. Well, you weren't gonna tell her. So, you're welcome. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at her like she was some stranger who'd walked into my life wearing my sister's face. I remember the sound of bees buzzing near the cupcakes. I remember Katie reaching for my hand under the gift table. I remember Kyle's voice saying, "It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything." I remember every detail except how I got home. Because after that, everything blurred. That night, I sat in the bathtub fully clothed. No water, no dramatic music, just me and the sound of the fan humming overhead while I stared at the grout in the tile. My dress still smelled like vanilla buttercream and that stupid baby powder scented candle my aunt gifted me. It was supposed to be a celebration. And instead, it became a public therapy session I didn't sign up for. Kyle knocked on the door once. Just once. I didn't say anything, and he didn't try again. He slept on the couch that night. I know because I stayed up until 3 a.m. listening to him toss and turn like a kid scared of a thunderstorm. The next morning, I finally spoke. "What happened?" I asked quietly. He was standing in the kitchen holding a mug of coffee he hadn't sipped from. He looked like trash, dark circles, messy hair, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in a dryer. "It was stupid," he said. "It meant nothing. We were drunk. It was months ago." I didn't say anything. "We were in a weird place," he added quickly, like that would soften the blow. "You were busy with work, and we weren't connecting. So you slept with my sister?" He flinched. "I didn't mean for it to happen." "Did you mean for it to happen again?" That shut him up. Apparently, it happened the first time on New Year's Eve. Emily had just broken up with some DJ turned life coach guy and invited herself to our party. I went to bed early that night. Pregnancy exhaustion, before I even knew I was pregnant. They stayed up drinking and watching some old comedy special. At some point, one of them kissed the other. And then the second time was a few weeks later. She stopped by to bring him something. I wasn't home. He didn't give me details, but I didn't need them. I already felt like I was going to puke, and not in the cute morning sickness way. I wanted to scream, cry, throw something. But instead, I said, "You need to leave." His eyes widened. "Can we just talk about this?" "No," I said. "You need to go. Now." He packed a duffel bag while I sat on the couch eating dry cereal out of the box because if I didn't chew something, I'd start crying. He paused in the doorway like he was waiting for a movie moment where I'd beg him to stay. I didn't. He left. I didn't call Emily. She didn't call me either. My mom did though. Boy, did she call. Sweetheart, she was drunk. She didn't know what she was saying. She knew. But maybe she made it up to hurt you. She's always been dramatic. Yeah, she's dramatic. And Kyle confirmed it. Silence. My mom sighed. You know, things happen. Relationships go through things. Mom. She slept with my husband. That's not a thing. That's a nuclear meltdown. She switched tactics. Well, what do you want to do? What a wild question. What do I want to do? Oh, I don't know. Maybe time travel to before this nightmare and lock my sister out of the house? Instead, I just said, I don't know yet. Because truthfully, I didn't. I wasn't some super strong main character who has a perfect comeback and a flawless revenge plan. I was just a tired pregnant woman who couldn't believe the two people closest to her detonated her life in broad daylight over stale rose and bad decisions. The worst part? I still loved him. Not in a he deserves me way, but in that awful, gut-twisting way where your body hasn't caught up with your brain yet. Where you still look for their face in a room before remembering they're not coming home. Katie came over that weekend. She didn't say I told you so, even though she definitely raised red flags about how weird Emily acted around Kyle sometimes. Instead, she brought a bunch of snacks, sat next to me on the couch, and said, "We don't have to talk." I brought caramel popcorn and all 4 seasons of New Girl. She stayed the whole weekend. We didn't talk much about it until Sunday night. I was sitting on the floor folding tiny onesies that suddenly felt like a joke. I said, "Do you think I should still name the baby after my grandma?" Katie paused. "Well, unless your grandma also slept with Kyle, I think she's safe." I laughed. Like actually laughed. First time in days. Then I got serious. I don't know what to do. About him. About her. About anything. Katie leaned back. Okay, so here's what we do. First, we let yourself feel all of it. No rushing. No decisions made out of rage or sadness. Just let it sit. Second, you stop answering calls from people who make excuses for her. Or him. Even if it's my mom. Especially if it's your mom. I nodded. It took a few days, but I started setting boundaries. I turned off my phone at night. Blocked Emily on everything. Told Kyle not to contact me unless it was about the baby. I started seeing a therapist. I started journaling. I cried in the shower a lot. I rewatched old movies where the bad guy loses. I scrubbed the baseboards at 2 a.m. because if I couldn't fix my marriage, I could at least have clean trim. And slowly, I began to plan. Not revenge. Just peace. Clarity. Exit strategy. 3 weeks after the baby shower meltdown, I went to my OP appointment alone. The receptionist asked if my husband would be joining me again. I smiled politely and said, "Not this time." That was the first time I'd said it out loud to someone outside my circle. And it hit me, he's not my person anymore. Not the way he used to be. The doctor walked me through the usual. Heartbeat strong, growth on track, everything looking good. And all I could think about was how this little life was the only thing I wanted to protect right now. I couldn't control what happened, but I could control what came next. After the appointment, I sat in the car and messaged Kyle. Doctor said the baby's doing great. Still on track for mid-July. Hope you're taking care of yourself. He replied a few minutes later. Glad to hear. I miss you. I think about you every day. I didn't reply. Not to that. But that message told me something important. He still thought there was a chance. He didn't know I'd already talked to a lawyer. I wasn't filing for divorce yet, but I needed to know my rights. What custody would look like. Whether he could show up and demand anything. Spoiler, he couldn't. My name was on the lease. The utilities. The health insurance. The baby's name was already registered under me. I'd done the work. I'd held this family up. All he did was break it. Meanwhile, Emily had gone quiet, which was almost worse. She didn't text, didn't post, didn't even send one of her classic vague, some people are toxic nail polish light skin tone stories. It was like she knew she'd detonated the room and just ducked behind a table while the dust settled. But our mom? Oh, she was determined to glue things back together with optimism and denial. She kept inviting me over for dinner, kept suggesting I talk to your sister and clear the air for the baby's sake. As if my baby needed an aunt who'd crawl into her sister's bed the second things got messy. Eventually, I told her flat out, Mom, if you want to have a relationship with me and your grandchild, you're going to have to stop trying to make me forgive people who haven't even apologized. She cried. I didn't. 2 more weeks passed. Then Kyle asked to meet. He said he wanted to talk in person. I told him it had to be in public. Neutral territory. So we met at a little diner near our old place. Somewhere with harsh lighting and sticky tables and zero nostalgia. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in 5 weeks. I looked fine. I'd made sure of that. Soft makeup, hair washed, comfy sweater that made the bump look cute, but also made me feel like a grounded, stable adult who could absolutely raise a baby solo if needed. He talked first. I miss you. I messed up. I know that. I just want a chance to fix this. I stirred my iced tea and said nothing. He tried again. I've started therapy. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did. Have you apologized to Emily? You slept with her. Twice. Lied to both of us. So I'm just wondering if you've made any amends. I mean, she hasn't really been answering my calls. I nodded. Right. There was a silence between us that felt like 100 pounds of unsaid things. But I'd rehearsed this moment, over and over, in the mirror, with Katie, in my journal. I pulled out a small envelope from my bag and slid it across the table. What's this? He asked. Custody agreement draft. It's not legally binding yet. I'm still figuring things out. But I wanted you to see what I'm considering. He looked stunned. So that's it? No, I said. This is the beginning. He didn't get angry. He didn't beg. He just looked small. I paid for my own food. Told him I hoped he really did keep going to therapy. Then I walked out without looking back. Over the next few weeks, I set up the nursery. Katie helped. So did a few friends who, frankly, stepped up way more than I expected. One of them brought over a huge box of gently used baby clothes and said, honestly, I don't even like babies, but I like you. We painted the walls a soft green. Neutral. Calming. Safe. I took maternity leave early. Not because I was tired, but because I wanted to be alone in my space with my thoughts before the baby came. I blocked Emily's number. My mom kept trying to guilt trip me until I finally said, you can either be her mom or mine. Pick one. She stopped calling for a bit after that. Kyle showed up to a couple of parenting classes. We didn't speak unless we had to, but I let him be involved. Not because he deserved it, but because I wanted my child to have a father who tried, even if he failed. The night before my due date, I sat in the nursery and read one of those books that pretends to know what newborns want. Halfway through, I closed it and just whispered to my belly, we're gonna be okay. And for the first time since the baby shower, I believed it. My daughter was born on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. No drama, no chaos, just a slightly panicked rush to the hospital when my water broke and an embarrassingly loud, no, that's not pee, in the car on the way there. Labor was brutal, obviously, but when she came out, all squishy and screaming in pink, everything else melted. She was perfect. I named her Leona Grace. I didn't tell anyone the name until after she was born, not even Kyle. I wanted something that felt strong, something that sounded like a woman who'd survive anything. Kyle was there, technically. He held her for a few minutes, cried a little, and then asked if I wanted anything from the vending machine. I didn't, but I let him go. I think he needed the break more than I did. Over the next couple of days, the hospital room became a revolving door of nurses, lactation consultants, and awkward small talk. But you know who didn't show up? Emily. Not a text. Not a card. Not a congrats post. I found out later she'd gone on a trip to Cancun to clear her head. Apparently tequila and travel deals were more healing than owning up to your actions. Mom came by once. She brought flowers and a pink onesie that said Mommy's Little Angel. I thanked her, quietly, then handed her Leona for a minute. She looked at the baby like she was porcelain, like she might break her just by breathing too hard. I told her we'd be okay, and that she didn't need to stay long. She didn't argue. Back home, it was just me and Leona. Late night feedings, weirdly satisfying diaper changes, and the slow rhythm of a brand new life. I was exhausted and slightly feral, but also steady. Katie came by almost every day. She'd bring snacks, sit on the floor while I nursed, and tell me stories from her office job like it was the Office reboot. One night, when Leona was about 3 weeks old, Katie said, "You're actually really good at this." I laughed. At what? Breastfeeding while crying and watching reality TV. No, she said, at being calm. You used to apologize for existing. Now you make space like you were always supposed to be here. That stuck with me. Meanwhile, Kyle kept his visits regular, 3 times a week. Always polite, never pushy. We even had a rhythm for handoffs, diaper update, bottle count, nap notes. Like coworkers on a delicate project. I respected that, but we weren't us anymore. And deep down, I think he knew that too. About 2 months in, I got a letter. Not an email. A handwritten letter, in loopy, familiar cursive. Emily. It started with, I've been trying to figure out how to say this for weeks. The letter was 4 pages long. Apologies, excuses, weird metaphors about crossed boundaries and moments of weakness. At one point, she said, I don't even think I was in love with Kyle. I think I just wanted to be chosen for once. That line made me pause. Not because I forgave her, but because it explained everything. She didn't ruin my family out of lust or love. She did it out of emptiness. And I wasn't in charge of fixing that. She said she wanted to meet, to earn back my trust, to be a better aunt someday. I put the letter in a shoebox under my bed. Not to save it, just to get it out of sight without throwing it away. That felt like the right amount of closure. I didn't reply. Instead, I focused on Leona. The first time she left, it was because of a random spoon I dropped. Full baby belly laugh over the clatter. And I remember thinking, this is it. This is the sound that heals me. Later that night, I wrote in my journal. There's a version of me that stayed, that tried to forgive too soon, that kept letting people in just because they shared blood or memories. I don't miss her. Time passed. I went back to work part-time, found a rhythm, built something new. Eventually, I heard through the grapevine that Emily moved out of town, got some job with a wellness brand, started dating some guy who's into hiking and smoothies. Good for her. As for Kyle, we kept things civil. He's still trying, still in therapy, still bringing little toys for Leona every week. I don't know if he'll ever fully understand what he broke, but he's slowly learning how to build trust, just not with me. One night, after Leona had finally fallen asleep after an hour of bouncing, I sat on the couch and scrolled through old photos on my phone. One of them popped up, me, Katie, and Emily at my bachelorette party, smiling, drinks in hand. No idea what was coming. I didn't cry. I didn't zoom in or overanalyze. I just hit archive and set my phone down. Then I pulled the blanket over my shoulders, leaned back and whispered to myself, we're gonna be okay. And we are.